Hi everyone, this is Willie. Right now, I'm just going to quickly share with you what is a diplomatic clause and why is it important to you in the tenancy agreement. So previously, I've mentioned a little bit about letter of intent and the general tenancy agreement. Okay, just quickly, I just want to touch on this particular clause that I feel that a lot of tenants, a lot of landlords, they don't really quite get this clause, what is it all about? Okay, of course, no agreement is fixed. Okay, it's ultimately agreed mutually between the landlord and the tenant. Okay, but in a nutshell, what a diplomatic clause is for the tenant to be able to exercise this clause uh, upon fulfilling certain conditions. Okay, so it usually exists in a 2 year contract, not in a 1 year contract. But like I said, it is ultimately dependable on how both parties agree for the tenancy to take form. Okay, so in the case of a 2 year contract, right, what the diplomatic clause usually states is upon minimum stay of 12 months by the tenant is able to give a 2 months notice to the landlord to pre-terminate the agreement, uh, provided that he has provided that he has fulfilled uh, this condition where the EP or the pass the work pass that the tenant is holding is being uh, revoked or not being renewed. So in the case where perhaps the tenant has been terminated from the job position or been relocated to another country out of Singapore by the company, okay, by the employer, okay, because the EPO is always attached to the employer, or rather, the employer is supposed to be uh, applying the EP on behalf of this staff or this employee. So the staff will always have his pass attached to the employer or to the company that hired him. Okay, so that's the basic understanding. All right, so if in the event the staff is being compelled, is being forced out of his uh, control, that he has to leave the country, that is where the diplomatic clause can be used to protect the tenant from paying the unstayed period of the tenancy, right? So, but a few things I would say to take note from a landlord is uh, if the tenant did not produce proof that there is termination on the position that he's working in Singapore, or there's no proof that he has to be relocated out of Singapore, right? Then there is no need, or there's no way the tenant can exercise or use this clause to pre-terminate the agreement. That's one thing the landlord has to take note. Okay. Um, Sometimes the tenant might suggest for the diplomatic clause to be even lesser than 12 months, maybe like 10 months, 8 months, or 6 months. Meaning to say, if he has fulfilled a minimum of this number of months, and by giving another 2 months notice, and with proof that there is uh, a need or a compelling reason for the tenant to move out of Singapore, the tenant can exercise this clause and not fulfill the rest of the tenancy agreement. Okay, so for a tenant, do take note. Okay, if you really need a diplomatic clause, because perhaps there is a lot of movement in the company, or you expect that your promotion is coming very soon and you need to go back to another country to head a team or something like that, right? Then always make sure you uh, put up this request for the diplomatic clause to be of a certain month. Say if you really need it to be under 12 months, maybe you want it to be like 8 months. Always put it up to the landlord, and it is not hard and fast rule that it has to be 12 months. By common practice, it's usually 12 months and 2 months notice. Okay, back to the landlord. If you have faced some tenants who are perhaps citizens or PRs, okay, my opinion or my advice is the diplomatic clause will not apply. You need not provide for this clause. Why? Because for a citizen, for a PR, right, they will have the choice, or rather the liberty to stay in the country is on them. Okay, is on themselves. They would not be well, I mean, there's very little likelihood that they will need to move out of the country uh, other than out of their own accord. Okay, so for a foreigner, it's very different. Okay, sometimes, or rather, there are possibilities where the foreigner will have to be uh, asked to leave the country for whatsoever reason. For the local, for the PR, okay, I would suggest, I would advise, okay, not to give this clause. If they really need, something that's a short term, that is a reasonable foreseeable future, right, it's always fine to just go with a 12-month lease, a 1-year lease, right? So yeah, so that's all on my take for diplomatic clause. If you have any other questions on what this clause can be used or how it should be treated in a agreement, just drop me a message, drop us a message, and talk to us. And if you'd like to find out what other clauses in the TA that you need to better understand, okay, you can also leave us in our comments, and I will try to answer them in the next video. Okay, so I see you and take care. Bye.